Ladies and gentlemen, well, would like to invite our first speaker for the day. Our first speaker for the day, Mr. Blaise Costaber. He is a managing director of GMI Zahra Molders Private Limited and a first-generation entrepreneur. He is an alumnus of the Asian Institute of Management, Manila. He co-founded GMI Zahra Molders Private Limited in 1995 as an Indo-French joint venture. Headquartered in Goa, the company specializes in manufacture of roto-molded plastic products, including the well-known Shakti water tanks and a wide range of custom molded technical components such as fuel tanks, water tanks, and a wide range of custom molded technical components. The company's clientele includes John Deere, Volvo, Atlas Copco, Budweiser, Dynapac, Amman, Kohler, Doosan, Olikara, Paikani, and other leading industrial brands. GMI Zahra Molders is certified under ISO 9001, ISO 14001, and ISO 18001, reflecting its adherence to global standards in quality management, environmental responsibility, and occupational health and safety. Mr. Costaber is also actively engaged in academia and industry associations. He is a visiting faculty and management institution in Goa and has served as past chairman of Confederation of Indian Industry, Goa State Council, past president of the Goa Management Association, and past president of the Verna Industrial Association. He has been on the executive committee of Goa Chamber of Commerce and Goa State Industries Association. He has served on various government committees and task forces. In recognition of his contribution to business and leadership, Mr. Costaber was honored with the Alumni Achievement Award by the Asian Institute of Management, Manila. He is also a regular columnist for the local daily Heraldo, where he writes on business management and contemporary issues. So, gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Costaber, Blaise Costaber, GMI Zahra Molders, Goa, Pune.
Change this. No, you have to change that. You put it on notes. Notes. Switch it back from notes. I don't know how this works. It's there. Yeah, it's working. It's working. Good afternoon, everybody. I think it's loose. So what can rotomolders do inside the factory is my team. And I'm going to talk basically looking at the fact that we are trying to shift from rotomolding Sorry, but I think we are all used to it when we are running a product, something happens. You just got to fix it and move on. So what we can do, and I'm using that we are already molding something and we are looking at getting into other than water tanks. That seems to be the current trend of looking at it. So we are at the Rotometer conference, and I thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to address this August gathering. So about us, we also make the Shakti water tank, which is our flagship. We started with that. Today we have some other products around Shakti. Those are our parts. But 80% of our output is in the custom molding. And I like to say that we started with 99-1 principle. That is, when I started rotomolding, out of 100 parts in the US, 99 were others and 1 was a water tank. In India at that time, 99 were water tanks and 1 was others. So I wanted to get into the others, and therefore I worked on doing things within my company so that I could get into the others. Today we are 80-20, which is not bad because the water tank is a good product. The most important thing that we need for making parts other than water tanks is a mindset. Now, my presentation will have no pictures because of confidentiality and stuff like that. And we also need to think what we use. For example, I saw a slide of Rotomitra with a lot of pictures on it. They're somebody's products. Did they have the permission to use those pictures? We are not so used to getting into that part. We just use the picture. But we have to build this mindset in that these things are important and we have to take care of it. Because if you're getting into parts, you are working with confidentiality of the customer, and you have to be very careful about that. So this part that you see is what was called a lifeboat, maybe 15, 16 years ago. But it will tell you a story that will emphasize what I'm talking about, that we have to build the foundation if you're going to go. So when this part came up in one of the ARM magazines and all, I wrote to the designers and they gave us permission to make this part, and we were paying 25 cents as a royalty. But this part, I went to some conference and this was already made by somebody else, just made it. But more importantly was, I wanted to visit a factory. I was going to Turkey, so I asked Danu to introduce me to Jalal, and I wanted to see his factory. But Jalal told Danu categorically that, you know, you Indians always copy, so I don't want anybody coming to my factory. He was point blank. And he's not wrong either. So I said, okay, Danu, I'll talk to him. And I sent him this picture and I told him that, yes, people do copy, but we don't. And even for this small part, I have taken permission from the manufacturers or the designers to make it. So he said, okay, you come to my factory and we'll see. So Danu said, okay, if he's calling you to his factory, that means he might most likely show it to you. So we had a meeting in his factory, and after half an hour of talking to me, he said, okay, you can go into the plant and you can take your camera with you. So I think that as rotomolders, we also represent the process. So when we make a product, we must make a good product, so the process benefits. It's not only our company, but also the ecosystem. Otherwise, you'll be competing with blow molded tanks because your tanks are not so good, so they move. So you bring in the competition. So I think mindset is key in going forward for rotomolding as a business. So product. Now, there's one method of competing, or one method of making rotomolded products is look next door and you see what he is making, and then you make the same product, you know. But I must tell you that I went to a factory in the US and they had some 6 or 7 plants, and 24/7 they made only one product, which was a dustbin lid. So jokingly, there was a door and I looked outside that door and I kind of looked. So he said, what are you looking for? He said, I said, I'm looking for the company next door if they're making the same part. Because what would happen in India is the moment you made a part and it is successful or it's doing well, somebody else will make a copy, you know, and both people will have a problem with their business. So I think that rotomolding is getting an acceptance into many products in different fields. There's a lot of scope. Each of us can think what we can do to make a product to meet a certain need, you know, replace metal, replace plastic, replace fiberglass, and then build on that. You don't have to just go and look at copy and then start again. So I think that is the first thing that we do. And you can make a product which is the first time it is made. Today we see a lot of those kind of products coming out. We can change from metal, fiberglass to plastic. That's another opportunity. And the third is you replicate. That is, it's being made abroad. The customer wants it to be made in India. So you're replicating the product. But you can always add some value by, today the technologies have changed, the availability of some things have changed. So you can make the part better than what it was made abroad. So this is one kind of method that we should use and avoid copy and paste. So some areas that I think we should be looking at would be is this product suitable for rotomolding, what you want to make? Shrinkage and tolerance. You know, with water tanks, we don't even bother whether it is 5 mm or 10 mm less than the required size. We just nobody even checks the size. But if you're getting into other products, that is key. You have to make to the specification. And when you say specification, I've mentioned here, look at 2D and 3D drawings. I had a part this size and 92 dimensions on it. And when it went to the customer, they checked those 92 dimensions. I mean, you say, what's wrong with him? It's fitting. Kya problem hai? But he checked everything, you know, and so that's the kind of thing that you're getting into, which we're not used to. We should be looking at it. And then warpage. We don't think that warpage is a problem in some of our products, but it is an important facet of rotomolding to give a good product which is warpage free, and every time is the same. There are some standards, but it should be considered in the beginning. If you make a design which is going to have a warpage, then you're going to struggle to make it a proper part towards the final product. So we are adding work into the part. So if you design it properly, you will have a better part to produce. So you have to look at these areas. Material, we are very used to using 36RA045. But there are so many other materials, and I saw today there's someone giving additives to do something here, additive to improve that there. So we have to start looking at that based on what the customer wants. We don't look at much operating temperature. Minus 10 to 60 or 70 is Reliance. But people want minus 20, minus 40. So how do you get it? You have to look at different materials and accordingly meet that standard. The mold, I see there's one mold maker here, and just recently I met them and I told them that mold makers must know how to rotomold. You know what I'm saying? They should not be rotomolding, but they should know what is rotomolding because they are making the part. So the design of that part, where you're going to put the parting line, how it's going to eject, has to be all thought of in the beginning. Now, compared to earlier and today, there's a lot of change. You know, they'll send you a image of where the parting line is going to come, how it's going to open. So we have to think of all these things at the start, because if you don't design a mold properly, you're going to add work at the end of your process. That is, you're going to do it every day, and that's not on. So you try and eliminate your work by designing the mold properly. You have to have textures, nameplates and calendars. You have to look at them as removable, because sometimes part number changes. Then what do you do? So if you have a removable part number, you can always replace. So you have to think of these things, loose parts. That is, you know, when you have a mold which has an undercut, you may put a folding, as they call it in rotomolding, but it's an insert. But that will make a parting line. That means there is wear and tear on that. That means that there is the parting line is opening and closing. You'll have a gap there. Whether it's going to create any aesthetic issues down the line has to be looked at. Today there are a lot of technologies like Venturi and Teflon plugs to make the holes, but again you have to be careful. You don't want to have a hole which is pre-made in the mold, which has some kind of flash inside, you know, because of formation, and then you can't put a grommet inside there. So you have to be careful what you're doing. You may need to have just a marking and drill the hole. It may be simpler. So all these things have to be done at stage one, that is a design stage. And then we have to look at setup costs. When you're making this mold, are you doing it in such a way that it comes easily to the factory, mounts easily, opens easily, demolds easily, you know, and everything. So what kind of insert holders you'll use, where will you have the vents, all these things have to be factored in at this stage to prevent problems later on. Now, costing here is terribly different from what we do in water tanks. I mean, you have a water tank selling at 3 rupees 50 paisa a liter, and if you try to multiply backwards, you not even get the raw material cost that Reliance sells at. But that's the way we do. I don't know, I seen on the group, someone says, if we go for BIS, how will we sell? But you're not supposed to sell lower than your cost. If everybody is competing on cost, it's not going to work, because they're all going to be floundering. And these parts require people to make parts that are proper, and they have some kind of access to you if the part fails. It's not that you sold a water tank and you say, oh, you know, aapke paas bill nahi hai, so finished. But here, they are going to come back to you and say, okay, it's not proper, it's leaking, something has gone wrong, so we want it to be made again, we want it to be replaced, and they have the the strength to make sure that you recover, or you do it for them. So costing has to be a little bit different. It's, of course, the standard items are there, the material you use, the inserts you use, the time of your machine, all those are standard. But we also have to look at the fact that a lot of these products require specialized cooling jigs. You got to make those jigs. They're going to cost you money. Tools to cut. You want to cut a particular shape to be cut in a particular position every time. You'll have to make a jig. Those costs must be factored in. So I've already said templates and cutting fee. Testing jig, that means once you make the part, you need to test it. You need to have a jig for that. Sometimes you'll set it up and then test it. So all that costs money. And another thing is the insert holders are consumable. So if you don't factor these things, it's not that you put the insert holder once and for the life of the mold, that insert holder is going to be there. It's going to cost you money every time you change it. So have you factored it into your costing? And each part doesn't go by weight. You can't say, okay, ye tanki ke liye 50 rupiya kilo. No. It depends on what is going into that tank, what is going into that product. how much time you are putting into open, close because of all the inserts. You can have a part with say 20 inserts. You can't charge the same cost as a part with no inserts because there's a cost over there. So that has to be factored in and got, which I think must be, there's no costing concept in the water tank segment. So here it's a big change that you have to do. So you should do it and think about it. Another cost that comes up is the mold. The mold maintenance is a big cost. It's a running cost. You know, the clamps have to be changed at regular intervals. The vents have to be changed, the Teflon in the vents. The part line has to be maintained, not every day, but maybe every 6 months, every year, depending on the usage. Then the texture, after some time, the texture gets worn out. So do you need to add that texture back into the mold? All these things cost money, and most customers don't want to pay that money. So you have to see how you're going to get it and how it's going to be factored in, but it is a cost which you have to think about. Mold maintenance is a big factor in these parts. Child parts, there are a lot of parts that can go into a mold. So you make the part and then you'll have a fuel gauge, you might have a cap, you may have a drain, you may have a filter. All these things can add, and when you're designing the mold, can you suggest a local part which is available rather than an imported part? Most companies are not very happy to change the caps or these parts because the global part number is the same. So they want the same part. So then you have to import it. But nowadays I find they are more amenable to change because of cost. And since India is becoming the hub for sourcing, so they're giving the part from here. So you have to suggest it to them and you have to take into account all these things. Then the material for inserts, brass or MS or plated, they have to be, there's a stall there which says ROHS compliant. ROHS is becoming a big issue or a big part with the customers. So we have to also be aware about it. Now you get I use Molden graphics, it's like using the word syntax, but Molden graphics, what I meant was the stickering system. You can have P labels inside your parts, give a much better get-up. The brand or logo comes out strongly. So you can consider using them, and there are more companies that make this particular aspect. The other things that you have to pay attention to or think about, which is not there in the water tank, but it's possible in non-tank, is packaging. Packaging, how you're going to deliver the product from your end to the customer without damage. So you have corrugated boxes, or you may have racks where you put your tanks on it, or you put your parts on it and send it, and it comes back. So the kind of design, because you don't want to bring back empty trolleys, you may want to think about some way of folding the trolleys and getting them back. Simulation, we are rotomolders, so we really don't know what that part is going to do in the field or wherever it is. So the technology is available to take this part and check whether it's good enough. For example, you may make a part which after filling bloats. Now you could have considered that in simulation and realize that, okay, you have to change something, you have to add a rib, you have to do something, you have to add a kiss-off or whatever it is to make sure that it doesn't bloat or doesn't bulge. Price increase. These days the price is very stable, but rupee is going down slowly, but it's going down. So it has an effect on your cost. In a water tank, you can ask for the cost from tomorrow. You can say, okay, my price has changed. But in these parts, it's not so easy to get price increase. They fight tooth and nail. They want you to have a price fixed for 1 year and things like that. So you are supposed to say that it's not possible, because that's the main thing. So I can't supply at a discount if the price goes up or down. So you say, okay, it goes up, the price goes up. And if it comes down also, the price will come down. So it's both ways. You can't say it's only going up, then I will charge. But it has to be factored in at the start. Because if you lock yourself into a price, then you will be losing out. And actually the customers also know that they do due diligence or financial due diligence. So they also know that if you're not making money, you're not going to be around to supply them. So but at the same time, they will not give you whatever you want. So you have to also be very careful in asking and be fair and get it done. But you have to understand that whatever price you decide is not connected to the part you make. You can't say, okay, I'm giving a discount, so I'll do material thoda kam karega, or something else I'll do. It's not possible. Price is one thing, and making the part or quality part is one thing. They're not connected. I mean, they are connected, but they're not connected in the way we think, like, okay, I've given a discount, so I will take out 10 grams from the part. It doesn't work that way. Type tests. Most of these parts require testing. And you may be doing it at ARAI or ICAT or some testing agencies. Recently, we had to do a hot oil test at so much pressure and so much of temperature, which ARAI doesn't do, but we had to find somebody to do it. And it was a complex test, nothing that we could understand, but the customer wanted it. And then they found the place and we got the test done. Now, as I said earlier, we are making a roto-molded part. So we really don't understand everything about the customer's thing. So we have to be careful what we are suggesting to make and what is going to be tested. And because once you make the part, and if the test fails, who is responsible? Did I design the part? It's your design. So you have to be aware of these things because one thing what I have noticed over here is, in these years of working, is when you are discussing with the purchase people is one part. When you make the part, it goes to another animal called quality. And he is a separate person. Whatever you talk to the purchase animal is forgotten. That's his problem. Now you deal with the quality animal. And that guy has his own thing. He said, I want this. But, it's not possible. I don't know, it's there, whatever. So you have to be careful in reading the specs, in reading the dimension that you're offering, things like that. So you have to make it clear that if I'm making the first part, there may be some tolerance. You can't say I'll make it exactly like the one that they have, because this is a new mold. And I recall one time, it was my first part that I made, first custom molded part that we made, and I went to the customer, and there were all these senior people around the part, and each one had his own comment, oh, this is like that, that is like that. And then someone had a bright idea. He said, bring the imported part. So when the imported part came next to our part, I literally felt the tension go from my head like this. Because they were comparing an old part, which was, in production for many years, to a part that had just been made. So obviously but they could see that, the offset was there. So there were so many things. But it also means that when they're always comparing parts with the imported one. So if you make a better part or you make a newer part, it could help. And the last, this is my favorite topic. I think that everybody should be doing, behaving ethically. And this is not for any religious reason. Ethical makes good business sense. So if you are ethical, you have good suppliers, you have good customers, good employees. You have to do it properly. And you will benefit, so people can trust you also when you're doing it properly. If you're not, then everyone will be thinking how they should be dealing with you. And that doesn't. And as I said earlier, every ethical behavior attracts ethical stakeholders. So you will automatically surround yourself with people or suppliers or anybody else who deals with you, who deals in the proper way. But if you are doing something, you can expect that somebody else will also be doing it. So you have to be, according to me, we should be building ethical roto-molding companies so that, as I said, not only our company, but also the roto-molding ecosystem benefits. And the roto-molding process gets a good name. So to give that roto-molding process a good name is not Rotomitra's problem. It's each and every roto-molder in the system who has to do it. I have to think that how am I doing it? If I do it right, roto-molding gets a good name. Then we are all part, because I saw in Rotomitra's thing, it's written there, responsible values and all, which is basically ethical that I'm talking about. So Rotomitra also is proposing the same kind of concept. So if you have any questions or if I missed out something that you want to ask about, you can go ahead and ask and I will answer if there's time. There's time? No, time? Yeah? Four-way test. Oh yeah, why not? I don't think Rotary has patented that. Is it? Yeah, so anybody can use it, and it is a good thing that maybe Rotomitra can consider asking suppliers, asking molders to ask this question. You know, is it right? Does it build better friendships? There are 4 parts to it. Four-way test it is called. You just Google it, you'll get all the 4. Does it? Is it right? Does it make any things like that? And finally, does it build goodwill and better friendship? So if you do it right, you will ultimately build goodwill and better friendship. Okay? So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Could you please put your hands together for Mr. Blaise Costaber? Requesting you, sir, to please stay on stage. And would like to request Mr. Nayan Shah, requesting you to please come up on stage to felicitate and present a memento for our dear sir. Excuse me, sir. I think we didn't get the picture.